It Chapter 2 reunites director Andy Muschietti and writer Gary Dauberman, and this is the conclusion to Stephen King's very epic novel in film form, of course. It would be hard to include every single thing that Stephen King wrote, and it's probably good that they didn't, but they hit the themes of it just perfectly, in my opinion. This was a great conclusion to one of Stephen King's most famous works. However you feel about it is your own business. You can leave your thoughts in the comments. But with this, it was just a perfect way. Like, it was much better than the miniseries. Now, the miniseries, I do want to say the first part with the kids was actually pretty good. Tim Curry gave a great performance. Got this shirt, just because I love Tim Curry's version of Pennywise. The stuff with the kids was great. And then once it got to the adults, it was absolutely rancid. It was rancid. It wasn't anything against the actors. They were fine. Just nothing really was all that good with it. And yeah, sure, it's dated. It was 1990 after all. So when I saw that they were going to do another It, I was like, oh God, this is going to suck. Because I thought the trailer looked like shit. I go, this isn't going to be good at all. And I was pleasantly surprised. I love Bill Skarsgård in it. He was a terrifying Pennywise. And the kids were absolutely tremendous. And the great thing is in this film, and I'll get into spoilers here a little bit later, the kids make appearances in flashbacks, which is great because all those kids, every single one of them, were top notch. They were really goddamn good. They lent a lot of credibility to that movie. The fact that they reacted like kids would when they were seeing their worst fears, because Pennywise, the dancing clown that wants to kill them all, is coming at them because he just preys on children. He preys on fear. That's what he does. And then in the end, they beat him down back into the sewers and everything. And then Bill, the nervous one, with the stutter, says, swear if it isn't dead, we will come back and we will kill it. Well, they make their blood oath, they do all this stuff, everything, and they go off, and that's pretty much where the movie ends. This one picks up 27 years after, because every 27 years, Pennywise wakes up and he starts to feast, and he feasts on fear, and he feasts on people, and he feasts on a lot of people. I mean, I will say this one, the first one was scarier. In this one, though, it was it was a nice character study of every single person, in the Losers Club when they were grown up. And that's what, the kids called themselves because they were all picked on everything. So they were the Losers Club. So what are they doing as adults? Well, Beverly is played by Jessica Chastain, who is very, very good. I will say they cast everybody perfectly as adults, as adult versions of the kid. They were great. They were absolutely fucking great. Bill Hader was phenomenal in this. He was absolutely wonderful. He nailed it perfectly. He nailed Richie perfectly. The jokes just did great. Did goddamn great. Bill was played by James McAvoy. He was great in it. Isaiah Mustafa, he played Mike. He was the one that stayed behind and studied up, about this. He stayed in the town of Derry, Maine, where all this shit went down. And everybody went off and did their own, had their own lives. Richie became a stand-up comedian. Bill became a writer. Beverly got in an abusive relationship, which kind of, is like, oh, what happened with her dad in the first one? And then you see all this stuff happen. Well, eventually Mike calls because he sees all this shit going down. Pennywise is back. He is starting to kill. And this is their chance to kill him. This is their last chance to kill him for good. Mike found a way, and he calls everybody. Does everybody make it? Well, if you've seen the book, or not if you've seen the book, if you've seen the miniseries, if you read the book, almost all of them make it. I'll get into spoilers here a little bit later, just for those that maybe haven't read it, but one of them does not, and you could probably pick out which character it was. But everybody in this plays their roles just absolutely perfectly. However, I will say that the best parts may have been when they flash back to the kids. Not that any of the adults were bad. Again, Bill Hader, phenomenal. Cannot put over his performance enough. The directing was very good. The writing was very good. Cinematography, the music, the visuals, all that. Oh, and Henry Bowers, who apparently fell down the well and everything and shattered every bone in his body. No, he isn't dead because he plays an integral part of the, a very, critical role in this second half. It's much better, I think, than they did in the original miniseries, which I thought was a nice way to do it. And as things go on, as everybody reunites, not everybody wants to be there. Mike's the only one that remembers all this stuff because he stayed in Derry, so all these memories stayed fresh with him. Everybody else, when they left, they went off and had their own lives, and there's fleeting memories, but there's really not all that much. However, because they made their blood oath, when Mike calls them, everybody reacts differently. One doesn't react so favorably, and then you get the Losers Club reuniting, and then more shit starts going down. Now, as things go on, you get to where Mike comes up with this idea of like, hey, we have a way to stop Pennywise, but we have to figure out our best way to do it. We have to figure out the way to do it by getting something each from the past that meant the most to us, and we have to, do this ritual where he talked to these. He found out a way to do this ritual to stop Pennywise. Will it work? Well, who the hell knows, because you have to watch the movie to find out. However, if you watch the movie, you know exactly what I'm saying. And as things go on, we get flashbacks and stuff like that of more stuff where the kids dealt with their fears. And actually, that was some pretty damn good shit with some really good practical work, some really good special effects that didn't necessarily look all cheesy and everything. Sure, some of the special effects were a little computery. And I mean, when I kind of liked how, yes, there was a lot of CGI in the first one, but they made it look like where it wasn't so much like CGI. In this one, I'm not going to say it was phoned in, but it almost felt like they captured it perfectly in the first one. In this one, sometimes they didn't. However, eventually things get, bloody, things get pretty brutal. And there's some really, there's some nice character work here. I really like how it focused on the fact that, hey, they may not have remembered everything, but they came together, and were they able to stop Pennywise? Well, again, if you read the book, you know. This movie, however, really goddamn good. I really did enjoy it. The scares were pretty good. It wasn't as scary as the first one. Let me just say that right off the bat. Not as scary as the first one. But the performances were absolutely great. Everybody played their roles really well, and I can't say I have any complaints about that. The runtime, okay. Nearly 3 hours. The first one was 2 hours and 15 minutes. I mean, it's not like this one with an extra 34 minutes is necessarily the worst thing in the world. Also, you're trying to encapsulate a 1,000-page book, or like 800,000-page book, I forget the exact number of pages. You're trying to encapsulate that into 2 movies. So, yeah, there's going to be some shit you leave out. There's going to be some stuff you want to flesh out. And there's going to be some ways you want to wrap everything up and have everything be in a nice, be nice and conclusive. So overall, I would say the movie was a whole lot of fun. However, I am going to get into spoilers here. So if you enjoyed it, Chapter 1, you will enjoy this. Was it Chapter 1 scarier? Yes, it was. But I'm going to get into spoilers here in a little bit. So if you're still watching right now at the 8-minute mark, here we go. 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so the character that I referred to that died, Stanley, because of course it was Stanley. It was a nervous one that, the Jewish one. I'm not saying it, but that's the character he was. He couldn't go back. When he got the call from Mike, he just couldn't do it. He was the one that wrote in blood when he slit his wrists in the bathtub. Because he remembered what it was like, and he just couldn't go back. He knew that he would not be able to help. But everybody else manages to get back. Richie doesn't want to be there. Nobody really wants to be there. Nobody really believes Mike. Mike's got this idea where he talked to these like natives or whatever, and they helped him figure out a way to beat it. And he's got to get this weird pot thing. They got to get all this stuff. They got to get these artifacts or these mementos that mean a whole lot to them, from their past. Put them in a pot, set it on fire, put a fire in there, set that stuff on fire, and then they could trap, Pennywise's deadlights, the 3 orbs that Beverly saw when she looked in his mouth, or whatever that is. So, they're like, oh, okay, we'll do that, except nobody really buys into it. And then as things go on, the adults, the adult versions, they confront their own worst fears. Now, here's going to be my main concern or main complaint about the movie, and maybe where I feel it Chapter 1 is just a little bit better, Because I can't remember if I did that review a couple years ago, obviously. I can't remember if I rated it a B+ or an A-. I hope I rated an A- because that's what I meant to rate it. In that one, you had the kids' performances. They were great. They reacted how kids should. Kids would be freaked out by that shit and be like, well, how the fuck are we going to deal with that? Wait, let's get the hell out of here. But, oh, wait, we're reacting like kids. So we have some issues. Granted, 27 years later, not everybody not everybody remembers this stuff. Mike's got to remind them. Being back in Derry will help remind them. And okay, they have a whole bunch of fears and stuff that's bubbling back. So maybe they're not going to react rationally. Except sometimes they're like, okay, we know it preys on fear, so we're going to do the stuff intelligently. And then they go and do the exact opposite of that really, really like soon after. Now that's horror movie 101 and everything, but it just, I think if they had cut out some of that stuff, guess what? This movie probably could have been about just as long as, the first one, which wouldn't necessarily been the worst thing in the world. But again, the performances really are layered and really are well done. And Bill Hader once fan-fucking-tastic in this movie. With this, it's one that you really need to experience. Telling all this stuff, like of every single thing that happens, is going to be hard to do. I did like the Paul Bunyan character coming to life. The Paul Bunyan statue coming to life. That was really good shit. The Pomeranian dog that turned into a bit of a werewolf issue or werewolf creature. I liked how everybody, had to fit when they had to go find their memento or their thing from the past. Everybody had to confront. You had Beverly confronting that old lady, which that was some pretty good stuff. Even though you thought they spoiled a lot of it in the trailer, they spoiled some of it, but it was still pretty goddamn creepy. Bill, of course, James McAvoy, who played his role very well, is still dealing with the grief of losing his brother Georgie. Richie is dealing with the fact like he's got his fear. Everybody's got their fears, and everybody handles it pretty well. Even the guy that played Eddie did really well with dealing with his fears, his phobias, and all that stuff and everything. And it's funny how it actually there's still some characters there like the guy the dad and the daughter in the pharmacy. They're still working there. They never left the town of Derry, Maine. And then you got the character of Henry Bowers, which I don't know how the hell he managed to survive that fall down there, but he did. And he was in an institution, and then he gets out and he starts stabbing people. He's less of a threat in this one though than the first movie or than the miniseries. Because he ends up getting dispatched in a pretty cool way with some kind of like pickaxe type thing through the head or almost a coat rack or something. That was, it's some kind of sharp object. When it gets to where Pennywise, they get to Pennywise's laser. It was like a laser show. No, his lair, and they figure out this ritual. Oh, they can't quite beat him. Oh wait, why couldn't they beat him? Well, it turns out Mike lied about the whole ritual working, and he was like, "Well, I figured out we could do it because they didn't believe, but we believe," in this kind of stuff, and it's all about believing. Well, eventually they do beat Pennywise and actually beat him in a pretty creative way. People say it's anticlimactic. I don't necessarily agree. I think it's actually a good way to do it. They turn Pennywise's fear on him and basically make it like, we're not afraid of you. We're not going to be afraid of you. We're going to beat you down. We're going to make you feel as small as you've made us feel as kids. And then we're going to beat you. And yeah, okay, maybe not as much crazy shit happens, and or there's some shit that they left out of the novel, and I'll get into some of that. Beverly's husband, abusive husband, does actually come, and and he ends up getting killed. And there's some other stuff that happens that they didn't include in the book. That's one where I actually would have liked to have seen him get his comeuppance, but it did focus on the Losers Club as adults, and actually did a pretty goddamn good job with it. I really did like how the performances, everybody felt like a united family, even though they didn't remember all this shit. I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a lot of fun. And again, Bill Skarsgård, he wasn't on screen as much, but when he was there, it was really good. And boy, from that first death where it's like this gay couple, and one of them gets beat up, or both of them get beat up, and then one gets dumped in a river by these thugs. Pennywise kills him. And that was some gory shit. Then he kills a girl underneath the bleachers. That's the whole hello, that thing. That part from the trailer. The deaths were pretty cool. Yes, is everything perfect yet? No. Very few horror movies actually are perfect. There are times where you think, well, Pennywise did this. Why the hell didn't he just kill the guys? Why didn't he just kill them? Is he just trying to play with fear? He doesn't think that he can be beaten? And then he's beaten rather easily, to be fair. Sure, the spider thing and all that, when he turns into the spider creature is a little bit weird. But everybody that made it out in the book, I believe, end up making it out. Sure, there's some differences and stuff like that, but you'd have to remind me of like everything in the book. It's not everything's gonna be perfect. Some people are gonna put their own spin. Oh, and Stephen King makes an appearance in a bike or in like a knickknack shop or like a pawn shop, which is pretty goddamn cool. He actually it was nice. It was a nice little way like for him to be in the movie, and that was pretty goddamn cool. So overall, was the movie great? I think it was pretty goddamn good. I think it was pretty goddamn good and pretty damn great. Was it as scary as the first one? No. Great character study? Absolutely. And I'm going, you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say A minus. I'm going to say A minus. Now, I will say this. I have given grades like, A minus before. Midsommar was better than this, in my personal opinion. But this is a fine conclusion to, what was a great first chapter. And this is exactly how you end it. Sure, okay. People can complain about the length all they want, but I really enjoyed the movie. And that's all I'm going to say. So, A minus. There is a poll up there. There's no minuses or pluses, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I am John Ritland, and I will see you soon.